morning, how are you guys doing today? It's Friday morning. We're in a lovely little place today called Twyford. It's not far away from the River Thames. It's kind of like a village. You kind of feel like a little bit out in the sticks here. Anyway, we're in for a bathroom fitter, and he's got quite a nasty little bathroom to do. He always dishes them up. So without further ado, let's get in there, let's have a look and see what needs to be done. So here we are, here is our room. Now, before we get into plastering, we need to sort this preparation out, because if you don't sort your prep out, you're not going to have a very good performance, basically. There's a well-known saying, you know, just pull it out, let's come off with your hands. Okay, so look, these walls are in quite bad condition. We've got a stipple on the ceiling, and yeah, as you can see what's going on. So, I'm just tripping over things. The story so far is the fitter has taken the tiles off, and look, it's compromised some of the surface plaster, so it's revealed the sand and cement that's been done underneath. Up here we've got some old Hessian scrim dupe, I think they called it, so that would indicate this bathroom was probably done late 70s, early 80s, if that stuff's up there. So we've got some sand and cement, porous, some multi-finish. Here we've got some board work. So what we're probably going to do, we're going to mix some bonding. The fitter here is quite handy, look, and where it's gone back to brickwork, he's bonded out some areas already. So what we're going to do initially, we are going to knock up a little bit of this bonding mixed with some multi-finish, and we are going to come and fill all these cementy bits up as best we can and bring them out to the level of the multi-finish level. So straighten that all up before we even start thinking about putting our plaster on. So one thing to note, what's happening in here is, some people go, well, how far should I go with taking ruptured plaster off? Now, I've advised this guy, we've used PVA. PVA is fine in here. He's given us a PVA prior because this is going to be so dusty and porous. So he's PVA'd this up twice. It's a good 48 hours to cure, okay? So that, it kind of works a bit like SBR. When you PVA so far and allow it a long period of time to cure, it does kill the suction and it stabilizes all this. If you try and do it the same day, you're not going to get as good a seal and stabilization of all this loose porous stuff. So what we're going to do firstly is we're going to scrim up like so, like we have. I haven't done that bit there because I just wanted to show you that Hessian. And then we're going to give this all another good PVA. Now I just lick my finger though and just touch this. It's going to give us an indication of how, so see that that's changing colour now? That's still quite porous and it needs another PVA, and if I keep touching that, I can feel the PVA livening back up and it's becoming sticky again. This is what I like about PVA, it does that. SBR doesn't do that. If you leave that on and then that cures, that goes rock hard and waterproof and it won't come back to life like that. Like I say, there's a light stipple on the ceiling. That's going to need a PVA, but because it's a painted surface, that's not going to go off anywhere near as fast as this dry porous stuff. So when we PVA that, the idea is to PVA that to actually physically glue the plaster to that painted surface. Another thing is, when you've got ruptured plaster like this, sometimes it's difficult to stop popping it off. And because he's PVA'd this so early on, like a good 24 hours away, you're able to get PVA in around this and re-stabilize this. I mean, whether it should come off or not, what I normally say is if you can get that off with your bare hand, then that really needs to pop off, okay? As soon as you start getting a tool behind there, you'll keep going and going and going, and every time you take a loose bit off, it ruptures the next bit, and before you know it, you've just got it all off. So you kind of have to be a little bit careful when you start hacking plaster off, because you can re-stabilize it. So that's pretty much what to do. And like I say, you know, there's a lot of prep to be done in here before we even think about putting a nice top coat of plaster on this to sort this room out. So here we've got sand and cement. Putting the beads up, I've used a heavy duty stapler, and some of the staples haven't gone on very well because it's struggling. There's already beads on there, but you see that stapler is kind of doing all right. It's getting in there, but if they don't go in properly, then just give them a tap with a hammer, okay, and just persuade them in, and they'll be fine. Also, so what I've done, because it is kind of a bit of a dubious sort of bond there with just the staple, as you can see, we've scrimmed up both sides of the bead, and you'll be surprised how secure that holds that. And when we PVA on top of that, that's going to secure it again. Well, what you need to be careful for if you do this, you don't want to come over this finished edge here, which is the bead, which is going to be seen. And to ensure that you have got enough distance there, you just get your trowel, just hold it on, and just make sure you're clearing that scrim. You've got that bead on there, nice and square, which it's doing. So all I'm going to do is just bead up this last one in exactly the same fashion with some staples in there, and then back out with some scrim, and then we're going to PVA it, and then we're going to turn our attention to filling these dirty, great big sand and cement holes. So let's get on with that, shall we? Okay, so show you applying some PVA. So we keep our PVA in this tub, load it up. Get the excess off on the side. Start at the bottom, create that little wave. See that little bead of PVA there? And wash that little wave so it's getting right into all the divots, nooks and crannies, the textured surface that you're going onto. Notice we've got the roller, a nice fluffy roller on a pole, makes things a lot quicker as well. So there we go, look, we've mixed up, it's a bit of a concoction in there. We had half a bag of hardball sort of thing, we had his bonding, with a little bit of multi, we've chucked that all in there to create an undercoat just to go over the areas that we deep with the sand and cement. I've been using a 16-inch carbon steel trowel.
That's 20.
Oh, sorry, the 20. I was looking at you making that noise whilst I'm trying to film, the work matters. So yeah, 20-inch carbon steel trowel, and that's allowed me, I haven't been over these with a rule or anything, that's allowed me to kind of pack them out and get a good idea. Bigger, straighter trowels, great for something like this. And we didn't knock up the gear too stiff either, so it's not too hard. So we're going to sort this out and tidy it up. Sorry?
I was going to say, a good pointer, if you've got deep bits like this, what I was just picking up the other day was, so if you've got all of this needs filling out and it needs to be quite thick, what you want to do is do it in literally like a space about that big. Instead of putting a bit on, smearing it all the way across and trying to build it all the way, just do it little nibble, and just put it on a little piece.
Rather than trying to colour it in, and floating, doing this stuff, using the undercoat, it really makes you try to regulate the depth, and it will, if you get the hang of doing some floating, it's probably harder to do than setting. It really will improve your setting skills as well, of being able to regulate the depth and feel what you're doing with your trowel. So we're going to tidy these up a little bit more, and then what we're going to do is turn our attention to the ceiling and get some multi-finish on that. And then hopefully by the time that ceiling starts picking up, we get that in front of all the rest of the walls, all this wet undercoat will be picked up and we can start putting some top coat finish on the walls and they'll be ready. In here we noticed this PVA on this stippled ceiling is taking quite a long time to go off, so that's a good indication there's not going to be very much suction on there at all. There's a big bulge there that Matey wants us to straighten up as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock up for that ceiling now. But what we did, we put a little bit of water in the bottom of the setting bucket. We washed all the bonding from that floating coat where the hard wall bonding and multi-finish mix of floating coat that we did all those patches with. We've washed all our tools off into it and we've created this kind of fairly fresh dirty water. So we've put that in the bottom, then we're going to add the rest of our water and knock up as usual, and hopefully the properties in that plaster that's already starting to set would transfer and just speed the multi-finish up a little bit for the first coat, because it looks like it's really going to hang. So that's the bend we need to sort out. Okay, so we've knocked up a small amount, fairly small amount, quite stiff, and we're going to put a band across there to take out that bow in the ceiling and the deficit in this bit of plasterboard. It was a bit short on the undercoat, so we're going to stick a bit in here where we didn't have enough to get all of that sand and cement. And just like checking here on that sand and cement, you see these tiny little cracks appearing. They're stress cracks. That's where that sand and cement, even though it's been PVA'd a couple of times, it's still drawing that moisture out of the undercoat here. But I'm not too worried about that, because we want that to kind of happen, because I want this undercoat to go off so it's ready for us to skim over as quickly as possible. At the moment you can see it still makes some indentations with my finger, okay, but it's picking up, so I'm quite happy the way that's going. But if you do get some bad stress cracks like this, it's probably going to be a good indication that we're going to need to PVA on top of this floated coat as well. So we will do that prior to putting any setting material over this floated area. Okay, so we've used that stiff stuff just to get that straightened up through there and get that band on that bend that's going all through the ceiling. And like I say, it's some little holes in that we just touched up with the multi-finish there that's stiff. Now, you might be tempted to put a rule across this. Well, I used a 20-inch carbon steel trowel, so I've managed to get that on quite flat, I think, because the trowel's not, the nose isn't, the toe isn't sticking in, the heel's not sticking in, so I'm quite comfortable that I've got that flat. And I don't really need to rule that off. This is where you can apply floating skills to the setting coat. If you do rule that off, I would probably refrain from using a plastic. I'll probably refrain from using a plastic speed skim rule because it will tend to bow with the problem that we're trying to fix. So if you are going to rule it off, use something quite stiff like a derby or something. We didn't have enough plaster left in the bucket to continue over the whole ceiling. So what we're doing, there was a bit left in there, we're going to add some more plaster to that, knock it up to its regular consistency, and just knock enough so we can get a coat all over the rest of this ceiling. So because this is stiffer, when the thin stuff goes over the top, it should go over the top and stay on it, and then this will start setting a little bit quicker than this, so it'll all start going off at the same time. Okay, so there we go. I've got the ceiling on and flattened it in. We've got the usual sagging with the pimpling, the inverted pattern coming through where the plaster's so wet it's sagging under its own weight. So along here, I still haven't put a rule on there. Been using that 20-inch carbon steel trowel, and remember that the straight 20-inch carbon trowels or carbon steel trowels, they talk to you. They really make you work and try and get those lines out. So that's what I've been trying to do. If you're using a perma-shaped stainless steel, the blade of it is too curved. You won't get the information back from the plaster as it's leaving marks in it, because it doesn't hardly leave any marks. So these marks in here are showing me again where the ceiling needs to have some extra attention filling out and flattening in as required. So the carbon steel trowels, the straight ones, really make you work hard in getting things flat. I had a little bit of plaster left over, and I noticed there was a bit of a bend this way in this wall, so I've put a bit of a band across there to try and pull that out a little bit, and also had enough just to get these reveals on. I haven't flattened them in yet. I always find it's a good idea to get your reveals going earlier in the day rather than leaving them to end, but that's up to you. Another thing to notice in this particular room, look, we've got some spotlights that are going to go in here. Now right up against this wall, so if any of these walls in here need some special attention, it's going to be that wall, and it turns out to be quite a bendy wall as well, because when those spotlights shine down that wall, if there's any ripples or discrepancies, because it's so close to it, it's going to cast a shadow and really show up anything that's wrong with that wall. So we're really going to really pay attention to this one and make sure it's nice and flat and really eliminating any ripples that may be occurring there. Okay, so there's not much point in touching this ceiling for a little while. We've got to give it some time for it to pick up. Now we could start getting on these walls, but because the suction's so high in them, I think they might start coming out in front of the ceiling. And plus, I still want to get a PVA over these bonding patches. Still a little bit too wet for my liking. I'm going to let these go. Now, another little tip here is that I've got a dirty bucket, scraped it all out, but I've left all the plaster residue around there. Now I'm going to leave that in there because I want to wash that round again, and I want to knock that back into the next coat of plaster to send the top coat for this ceiling off a little bit quicker as well. Now you might be tempted to wash this round now and then have it all clean and then the dirty water sitting there. Don't do that, because it's going to make it go even faster. And what's going to happen, if I put a little bit of water in there, wash that round, get it all like in the water down there, then go away and leave it, what's going to happen is the sediments are going to stick to the bottom of the bucket and it's going to start to set in there again. And if you leave it too long, it will start going hard. And then when you come put the warm water in there and knock that up, there'll either be hard little lumps in there, or what is going to happen as well, because you've already wet it down once and knocked it back and it started to set, when you come back to it, you knock it back again, so that's twice you've knocked it back. So I'm going to leave this bucket dirty for now, and just before we're about to knock up, then I'm going to wash it round. Okay, so we're just giving this ceiling another flatten. I haven't put any more gear on there as yet. That's the offending bit that was really curving up there. I mean, it looks, when you cast the light over it like this, it shows up all sorts of stuff. So it's still a little bit too wet. I'm quite happy that that's flat. With that trowel, we've really eliminated as many of the trowel marks as we can, just using the trowel. Okay, so we're just going to let this pick up for a little bit before we apply a top coat to it, and we're going to start concentrating on bringing these walls in as time's getting on. Okay, so at this point we're kind of considering, we just put a first coat on these walls, and again they're going off sporadically. Some bits are deep, that's really wet there, that's picking up a bit. They're on thick, we've got air bubbles from that fresh bonding that we put on there. So at this point now, I'm kind of contemplating whether to throw the rest of this room on, and because we've got this little bit wall, this wall, and we've got the ceiling on, and we've got the reveals on at the moment. Kind of that's going off. It's still not really hard. So yeah, I'm contemplating we could throw the rest of these walls on now and get them all flattened in, let them pick right up, and then lay the whole room down. But we're going to err on the side of caution. I'd weather show. I said it's going to be a longer day if we split this up. So, you know, if you're really pushed for time, now's the time to get the rest of it on. But we're going to sit back, take our foot off the gas, and we're just going to watch what happens to these walls, because obviously the other danger you got is putting on so much on you, you can't get back and look after it. Well, I'm quite confident we would, but we'd have to work pretty hard to keep up with it, I think. But yeah, we're quite happy today. We've got a bit of a longer day and have a bit more of a chilled Friday. Okay, so yeah, we did give this a few more moments and the ceiling's picked right up. It's suddenly got really dark and looks like it's going to rain outside. So, and because it's such a small room, we didn't want to throw it all on and be like climbing all over each other like a box of hamsters. These walls have pulled in, so we was right not to throw everything on if we didn't want to be like sweating and under pressure trying to keep up with it. So we're just going to knock up a small amount, get this laid down, and then we're going to start thinking about getting the rest of these walls on then. Because we're breaking these sets up, we're still keeping the dirty water, so we're washing around the bucket and keeping the dirty water every time to speed it up in smaller blocks. Okay, so literally just put on the top coat, the second laying down coat on this ceiling, and we're picking up these walls as well. And as you can see, the top coat has gone on in a much more agreeable fashion. It's much, I haven't even flattened this in yet, I've just put it on, I've just thrown it on as quick as I can. It's because we took so much time flattening in that first coat, and we didn't leave things. If we saw a problem, we sorted it out straight away, right from the outset. You know, don't have the mentality that, you know, if you didn't have quite enough already, you think, oh, I'll fill that hole bit up better when I put the top coat on. It doesn't work for it really. When you're doing something, whatever the previous stages, you do that first stage so well that the next stage is a lot easier, and then you just keep that mentality, you keep doing that, so that when you actually come to trowel up, the troweling up bit is so easy, and the wall, you can see the wall's been kept under control. You can see that the guy that done it knew what he was doing. When you start seeing ceilings where somebody's had to fill with fat and it's all different colours, and you know, you can see that they make you struggle with it, because he's always chasing the problem, deal with the problem, get that stage that you're on as good as you can with it in mind that the next stage is going to be easier and easier and easier. So these two walls are pulling in much faster than the ceiling. I've just given it another little flat and it's still quite wet. I just went and checked over on these walls and they're almost there. So it looks like the ceiling is going to be the last thing to go down in this room to trowel up. We're going to get these other walls on soon. Okay, so we've thrown these last walls on and given them a flatten now. Same deal with the other walls. Ceiling's still hanging a bit. I'm going to probably switch to a flexi or a Fina Flex 2 stainless steel trowel and get this ceiling down. It's still a little bit greasy, to be honest with you. Look at that. That ceiling finally went back in, it's final. I did it with the stainless flexi. So all we need to do now is just knock up and put the tight coats and really let these walls go. Flatten them in a couple of times so they hold themselves still because of all this pudding-y stuff going on with all the different textures and depths we've got. So yeah, they're ready to lay down. And again, remember we're washing our tools off and raking just before we knock out, wash the bucket out and keep that dirty water, speed it all out. What a beautiful day. Little tip when you come in to get your internals, you're troweling nice and tight, give that little wiggle up and down just before you come out, and it should keep that really straight. So there we have it, the room is done. Taking us all day to put on 4.5 bags and like a bucket of Bondi. This is when the boss sticks his head in through the door and says, "Is that all you've done?" So yeah, 4 bags. It's taken us all day to get this sorted out. So yeah, we're good. One thing I like to pay attention to the corners. It's the internals. Make a nice job of them. What I tend to do is I don't tend to like using corner trowels. So what we'll use is like a little inch brush, and you'll find combined with the trowel, it really tidies them up. Your paint will love for it. Make sure you get right into your corners as well. I mean, I think corners of a wall are probably quite underrated. You make sure you get them all good. It can really, you know, turn a room around. When the painter comes on and that line is dead straight across there, it's not wobbly and all over the place. He's going to love you for it. Make sure you've got your window frames clean your beads off, go around the bottom of your walls with your trowel and just take the curly bottoms off, because they'll always curl out. He did ask, we normally do come quite low, but he did ask because there's a very small skirting going on in here. Apparently there's very, very minimal tiling, so you know, we just made sure we made a good job of it. So, it's time to go. We just need to give the floor a bit of a clean up, which we're going to get onto in a minute, and then we'll head on home. So guys, again, thanks for watching. It's a bit of a funny video this week, I think, or today, sorry. Next week we've got a full week of doing some other bits and pieces, so we can look forward for that. So yeah, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the next video, no doubt.